Liz, you're muted.
Thank you so much, Roxani. Welcome, everyone. We welcome you all. Please put your name in the chat box and let us know where you're joining us from. We're just going to give a few minutes so that others can join in as well before we start. So feel free to use the chat box to let us know where you're joining us from. We are happy that you're here, and we can't wait to start the discussion. Amazing. The chat box is busy already. I can see people joining in from the Gambia, Argentina. Hope you're all good. Cote d'Ivoire. We have Raymond from Zimbabwe. Macedonia, Iva, welcome. Welcome, Rafael from DR Congo. Susan from Malawi, thank you for joining. Ariho from Uganda. Craig from Zimbabwe, thank you for joining. Usai from UAE. India, we have India in the house. We have Algeria in the house. Ghana, Tanzania. Anastasia, thank you so much for joining. Yemen, Kenya. I mean, I cannot even finish all these countries, but I just want to say thank you so much for joining in the session today. We hope we are going to have a very good and interactive discussion, and stay tuned. So I think we are now good to start the session. I see most of you have joined, and please, if you think your friend has not yet joined, remind them that the webinar is started. Remind everyone that we have started. They shouldn't miss this discussion. It's an important one today. So I want to welcome you all to the In Our Shoes, Learning with Young Climate Innovators webinar series, organized by the Youth for Climate Initiative, co-led by the United Nations Development Programme and the Government of Italy. My name is Elizabeth Gulugulu, and I'll be facilitating today's session. The Youth for Climate Initiative is an initiative which seeks to support young people's initiatives and upscale their youth-led or their youth-led climate projects. In case you are hearing of the Youth Climate Initiative today, I encourage you to just type on Google about the Youth for Climate Initiative, and you'll get more information. The first Youth for Climate Call for Solutions in 2023 sourced over 1,100 youth-led solutions. This year, there was funding up to 30K. I want to see your hands if you did apply, or just put in the chat box if you applied for this year's funding. Unfortunately, the deadline was on Sunday, the 26th of May, and we're looking forward to see who makes it to the, I think, top 100. And then we're also looking forward to seeing who is going to win the 30K this year. In today's webinar, we'll be discussing the roles of trees and forests in ecosystems and sustainable farming methods. I'm sure you all do agree for us to be in this meeting is because of trees, because they provide oxygen and we are able to breathe and we are able to talk, we are able to discuss and share ideas because we are having oxygen. So we'll be sharing best practices on forest management and sustainable farming. In case you missed the discussion on the Youth for Climate platform, please, I kindly invite you to join. The discussion is still open and your inputs are valued, and we can't wait to hear from you. So on the discussion, it was quite an interesting discussion already. We have 50 people who have responded to this discussion on the Youth for Climate platform. And the kind of questions that we're asking is, we wanted to know the roles of trees and forest in the ecosystem. I've already mentioned one of them, which is oxygen. We also wanted to find out why people should be encouraged to practice sustainable farming. What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages, if there are any? And just to find out and hear from people's experience. And we had so many people who were sharing different examples, which I'll be sharing in a minute. Then we also wanted to understand the link between sustainable farming methods and climate change. Also, what can be done better to connect agroforest products, some you call non-timber forest products, to markets. So the discussion was really amazing, and I just want to give a shout out to Humphrey, who managed to join the discussion. I'm not so sure if you're in this meeting, but thank you so much for your contribution. On the Youth for Climate platform, Humphrey highlighted that trees play so many roles in the ecosystem, and one of them is supporting biodiversity. They provide habitats for animals, birds, insects, and also trees shed off their lives, which fall into the ground, decompose, and which decompose to form manure. Definitely, we do know how manure is important for our soils and for our agriculture. Then also I want to give a shout out to Nesta, and Nesta highlighted that people should be encouraged to practice sustainable agriculture because sustainable agricultural methods play a central role in mitigating the effects of climate change. Is this true? We are going to hear this in today's session. They create resilient communities by protecting them from massive soil and flooding and fostering sustainable food systems. This is not coming from me. All this I'm sharing is on the discussion, and I'm encouraging you all to just take a look at what was shared by your fellow colleagues concerning the advantages of forest and sustainable farming practices. Also want to give a shout out to Marianela, who is from Argentina, who shared an example and the importance of stakeholders' participation in terms of forest conservation. And also I'll be sharing more examples as we proceed throughout the meeting. And now, before we move on to our agenda today, we are going to have a poll. I'm just going to ask my colleagues to share our first poll. Okay, it's already popping on my screen. Let me know if it's popping on your screen as well. So the first question is, in your opinion, what is the most urgent challenge when it comes to connecting non-timber forest products with markets? We have number one, which is inadequate transportation. Number two, poor road infrastructure, which is currently at 33%. Then we have number three, lack of storage facilities, currently at 17%. Okay, poor road infrastructure is currently leading at 60 now. Okay, I will not say the percentage because they keep on changing. I will give you the answer shortly and let you know what you guys have suggested to be the most urgent challenge. Definitely, we cannot talk about forests without talking about the products, without talking about people's livelihoods, without also talking about how we can link products with markets. So from my end, I think poor road infrastructure is currently leading with 48%, 49% now. I will be ending the poll in a few minutes. Okay, so our results are inadequate transportation. It has 20%. So people think inadequate transportation, yes, it is a challenge, but not an urgent challenge. Then poor road infrastructure, you all think it's an urgent challenge when it comes to connecting non-timber forest products with markets. Then we have lack of storage facility. And you think it's a challenge, but not the most urgent challenge. So thank you so much for participating in this poll. It will help us to compile all the information into a summary report so that those who did not manage to join the meeting can also follow through and follow the discussions that has been happening on today. And now we're going to move on to to our agenda. And I just want to highlight to you that the United Nations Development Program has been doing remarkable work when it comes to biodiversity conservation, forest, and supporting communities in sustainable farming practices. And we are very privileged today that we do have experts in the house that have been working direct with communities and also with young people who shall be sharing some of the initiative that they have been doing, and a lot of UNDP work which I might not have mentioned. So to begin the session, I'm going to call upon Dr. Getz, who is UNDP Global Technical Advisor. Dr. Getz is currently a Global Technical Specialist for Ecosystems and Biodiversity with UNDP. He is home-based in Brazil, and he has previously worked with UNDP Angola and Mozambique country offices, as well as UNDP's Regional Service Center for Africa in Addis Ababa. He has over 25 years of experience working in natural resources management, focusing on agroforestry, the biodiversity and managed landscapes, sustainable and climate resilient commodity production, and communities in and around protected areas. He holds a master's degree in geoecology and a doctorate in natural sciences with a focus on soil science from the University of Bayreuth, Germany. He has also briefly studied African languages and anthropology at the University of Hamburg. Although a German national, his home base for the past 25 years has been Brazilian Amazon. Getz speaks German, English, French, Portuguese, and understands Spanish. And this is all that we have, and we can't wait to hear from Dr. Getz what he has to share in his remarks. As I have read out his bio, he is an expert. He has experience not only with speaking quite a number of languages, but also regional experience. He has also worked in Africa, and currently he is based in Brazil. So Dr. Getz, thank you so much for joining at the meeting, and thank you for accepting the invitation. I shall be handing over the platform to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And thanks very much. It's a pleasure to be able to contribute to this event here. I'm going to share my screen to provide a few slides. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Is it in presentation mode?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. Then I'm just going to say a few things about what agroforestry is, why people do agroforestry in just a few minutes. That means if I'm able to, yeah. So just to show you a few examples of how agroforestry can look like in different parts of the world. So we are starting with Brazil. This is in the southeast of Brazil. Is agroforests of cocoa. They are called cabrucas in the region. In the right, you would probably think this is a forest, but it's not. It's a cocoa agroforest, and the shade trees. The tree canopy is native, but it's underplanted with cocoa trees. So it's a typical tradition example of agroforestry in the northeast of Brazil. On the left side in the slide is a Brazilwood tree in one of these cocoa agroforests, which is the tree that gave Brazil its name. Another example of how agroforests can look like in Brazil, this is an example from the Brazilian Amazon, actually from not very far from where I'm sitting right now. These are planted rubber agroforests. You would probably think it's a secondary forest, but most of the trees in these agroforests are rubber trees, are planted into a cassava field and then left to grow. There are many other trees, either spontaneous. The one on the left is a tree that just was left over. It's a Ceiba pentandra. And on the right is a Brazil nut tree, that produces the Brazil nuts. That tree is planted, is probably over 50 years old. So this is another example of a traditional agroforest in Brazil, in the Amazon. This here is something very similar. It's also a planted agroforest, but on the other side of the world. This is in Sumatra, in Indonesia. In Brazil, the rubber tree is native, and people just had to collect the seeds in the forest and plant them into their crop field. Here in Sumatra, or in Indonesia, the rubber tree was introduced at the beginning of the 20th century. Farmers invented these agroforests to plant the trees into crop fields and then let them grow in a secondary forest environment, exactly the same way that they did in Brazil, but in a completely independently, and did this on the two opposite sides of the world. There are also other trees in these agroforests, like this fruit tree, it's a durian tree on the lower left, and has a visitor here, which is a Sumatran orangutan. These could be called agroforests. On the left is a riparian forest in the Amazon, and you see that there are palms in this agroforest, and these palm trees are actually planted. They are not. They are native to the region. It's acai plants, palms that produce fruit, native to the region. But in this agroforest, they were introduced. Otherwise, you would think this is a nature riparian forest. On the west side is a crop field. On the right side is a crop field. There's also a palm. This palm grew by itself. It's a Tucumã palm, also produces fruits, valuable fruits, and for that reason, the farmer retains the palms. He has several hundred of them and sells the fruit. So this is also a type of agroforest where the crops are planted, but the tree is spontaneous. This is a type of sequential agroforest, if you want. So people also here in the region plant trees in their crop fields. There's a cassava field on the west, and on the left, the person here in the picture planted a tree seedling. There's a mahogany. Then the trees grow up, and on the right, this is after something like 15 years. So basically, we forest former cropland. This in a reserve here in the region, and the reason why they are doing this, besides wanting the trees, they were able to get incentive from the government for doing it. This is another example, also here in the Amazon. There are large areas in the Amazon that have been deforested beyond what is legally permitted, and that are now, where the landowners are now obliged to reforest these areas. And some do this by using agroforestry plantings with native trees. So this is such an example in the south of Pará state. Here's a conceptual presentation about the biodiversity, the diversity in agroforestry systems. You can distinguish between what is domesticated plant diversity on the left axis, and on the lower axis, the natural biodiversity. And there are agroforests that are actually not very diverse, like this shaded coffee system in Costa Rica has neither a lot of domesticated nor spontaneous diversity. If you go to the upper left, this home garden does not have a lot of natives, natural species, spontaneous species, but has many planted species, home garden in Java. If you go to the lower right, There are very few planted species, mainly the cocoa trees and a few others, but a lot of natural species, spontaneously grown species, has a very high plant diversity. And then there are other systems like the agroforest, the rubber agroforest somewhere in the middle. So some of the diversity in agroforests is plant, and other diversity is essentially tolerated, but can be very important. Why do people do agroforestry? This has many reasons. One of the reasons, which will become increasingly important in the future, is that it provides certain resilience to climate change. This is modeling from Bahia, the cocoa agroforests in Bahia in the northeast of Brazil. Models suggest that within the next few decades, the area that is suitable for growing cocoa will decrease quite drastically. On the top, you see a sequence modeled under agroforestry conditions with the shading of the trees. On the bottom, you see a modeling without the shading of the trees, when the climate in the planting is a lot hotter and will very soon become too hot for cocoa. The same modeling has been done for West Africa. And you can see here the yellow areas. These are areas in the cocoa belt. This is where 80% of the world's cocoa come from. The yellow areas are areas that are projected to become a bit difficult for cocoa, not impossible to grow, but require management measures, and agroforestry would be one of the things that can be done here to improve the conditions for cocoa and keep the areas suitable for cocoa growing. Agroforests can contribute to climate change mitigation. This again is an example from Bahia, from Brazil. What you can see here in this table is that most of the carbon that is stored in the landscape is actually in these traditional agroforests. Forest reserves have higher carbon storage per hectare, but their area is much smaller. So on the total in the landscape, they store far less carbon than the agroforests do, because they cover a much larger area, which means that currently for the carbon storage in the area, it is essential to conserve these traditional agroforests. And this is basically all I wanted to say. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gutz, for sharing such an amazing presentation. Some of the pictures, you were actually on the ground. And this just shows that Dr. Gutz is not only speaking from reading, but speaking from experience. And I see people are already sharing some of their native tree species. We have heard about how people are benefiting from rubber trees and cocoa trees throughout different regions. We just want to appreciate your time, Dr. Gutz, and we value the knowledge that you have shared with us. Now, moving on, we shall be hearing from Jean-Paul, who is the UNDP National Advisor and also an expert in agroforestry. He is also an agronomist engineer specializing in forestry and environment, graduated from the National Polytechnic Institute of Yamoussoukro in 2012. He began his career at the Permanent Executive Secretariat of Red Plus in 2013, where he was also responsible for national Red Plus strategy and private sector engagement. He also contributed to the establishment of the payment system for environmental services, PES, and the integration of Red Plus into national budgeting processes. Since 2018, Jean-Paul has been a technical advisor in agriculture, forest, and climate at the United Nations Development Programme, and he also supports the Ivorian government in implementing deforestation, free agricultural policies, forest rehabilitation, and climate change strategy. I will not say it all, and I think this will also be an opportunity to hear from Jean-Paul concerning some of the initiatives that he is working on. Jean-Paul, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure for me to be there. I have already said that for this session, I would like to make the presentation in French. I don't know if the translation is available. If it is yes, I can start in French.
Jean-Paul, yes, please go ahead. So then we would just ask our participants to change the speaking language in their settings. At the bottom of your screen, you should be able to change the speaking language to French and your caption language to English. Thank you. Go ahead.
No problem. I don't want to have the PowerPoint to make the presentation. I will speak about my experience. So I'm going to speak now in French. So, chers collègues, merci beaucoup pour votre présence et merci beaucoup pour l'opportunité que vous me donnez ce matin de partager mon expérience justement sur la question de l'agroforesterie. Je voudrais aussi remercier aussi Goetz pour sa présentation très riche qui définit justement les différents systèmes d'agroforesterie en place. Comme vous le savez, la Côte d'Ivoire, comme de nombreux pays, fait face à des défis importants en matière de gestion forestière, mais aussi de sécurité alimentaire. Le pays est le premier producteur de cacao et donc qui occupe une place importante dans l'économie nationale. Bien entendu, cette situation-là a entraîné une perte des forêts, donc une perte de la déforestation. Et dans un contexte de changement climatique aujourd'hui, la filière cacao se retrouve dans une situation de vulnérabilité accrue qui fait qu'on assiste souvent à des occasions de perte de la productivité. Et dans ce contexte-là, l'agroforesterie, justement, se présente comme une solution prometteuse pour ces défis parce que grâce, comme Gus l'a présenté, grâce à l'intégration des arbres dans l'implantation du cacao, nous pouvons améliorer la productivité et la durabilité des parcelles de cacao tout en préservant l'environnement. Donc, les systèmes en place ici en Côte d'Ivoire en termes d'agroforesterie combinent des arbres à croissance rapide avec des cacaoyers et on va essayer, grâce à ces arbres-là, de créer un microclimat favorable qui va améliorer la santé des sols. Depuis le début de cette année, il y a une nouvelle norme nationale qui est rentrée en vigueur. Donc, la Côte d'Ivoire et le Ghana, qui est la norme AS 1000. Donc, c'est une norme régionale pour la production durable de cacao, qui fait obligation aux planteurs de cacao d'introduire des arbres dans leur parcelle. Donc, je dis cela pour indiquer qu'aujourd'hui, ici en Côte d'Ivoire, et tout comme au Ghana, l'agroforesterie est devenue une obligation. Pourquoi cette situation? Pourquoi l'agroforesterie est aujourd'hui mis comme une obligation ici pour produire du cacao ici en Côte d'Ivoire? À travers cette obligation-là, les régulateurs ont voulu mettre en avant 3 avantages des pratiques agroforestières. La première, comme je l'avais évoqué, c'était le fait que grâce à l'introduction des arbres dans la plantation de cacao, on pouvait améliorer la fertilité des sols et donc être bénéfique pour le cacao. Parce que, par exemple, comme Gauss l'a présenté dans sa présentation, les arbres forestiers vont fixer l'azote, vont augmenter la matière organique dans le sol, donc vont enrichir les sols pour permettre aux cacaoyers, justement, même quand il n'y a pas suffisamment d'apport en engrais, aux cacaoyers d'avoir la matière organique nécessaire pour son développement. Deuxième avantage qui est mis en avant ici à travers l'agroforesterie devenue une obligation, c'est la création du microclimat et donc le renforcement de la résilience des plantations de cacaoyers face au changement climatique. Vous savez que le cacao, c'est un arbre d'ombrage, donc c'est un arbre qui a besoin d'un minimum d'ombrage. On estime à environ 40% d'ombrage en fait que les cacaoyers doivent avoir pour une production optimale. Et dans ce cas, dans le contexte de la Côte d'Ivoire, les arbres là vont fournir de l'ombre en régulant la température et l'humidité dans l'air. ce qui va être crucial pour la santé des cacaoyers et donc les aider à s'adapter au changement climatique, notamment les moments où on a des épisodes de sécheresse. Le dernier avantage qui est mis en avant à travers cette agroforesterie, c'est le fait que grâce à l'agroforesterie, on pourrait augmenter les revenus des producteurs, notamment à travers la diversification des cultures. Par exemple, les différents types d'arbres qui pourront être associés au cacaoyer. Donc, ça peut être des arbres fruitiers. Et comme ça, les fruits des arbres là, pourront être vendus et donc générer des revenus. À part les fruits, c'est aussi les arbres forestiers donc, qui peuvent être utilisés pour le bois. Et enfin, le dernier élément sur les revenus des cacaoyers, c'est le carbone. Et dans ce cadre-là, il y a eu plusieurs projets pilotes réussis ici en Côte d'Ivoire qui ont été mis en place. Le premier, par exemple, c'est un projet pilote de paiement pour services environnementaux pour promouvoir l'agroforesterie. C'est un projet pilote qui avait été développé par le chocolatier Mondelez, donc qui est une entreprise justement de production de chocolat qui travaille avec de nombreux petits producteurs. Ils ont mis, au moment de la promotion de l'agroforesterie, ils ont mis en place un premier projet pilote auquel on avait contribué. Ce projet pilote-là visait justement à encourager les producteurs à aider.
Yes. I'm so sorry to interrupt you. I think maybe in your settings, if you see the caption settings, if you're able to change your speaking language to French, then we should be able to see the caption translation better. I'm sorry about that.
You don't capture all things that I said during the presentation. So yeah. I'm going to finish. I will translate in English.
You can please finish in French, and then if you'd like to share a few key messages in English towards the end, that would be fine. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No problem. So, je suis en train de parler des expériences de projet agroforestier. Je voulais partager 2 expériences de projet avec vous. Le premier, je disais que c'était un chocolatier Mondelez qui essayait d'accompagner ses producteurs à adopter l'agroforesterie et ils ont introduit les paiements pour services environnementaux, donc les PSE. Ce qui était mis en avant au niveau des PSE, c'était que les producteurs de cacao qui introduisaient des arbres forestiers dans leurs parcelles, en raison de 50 arbres à l'hectare d'agroforesterie, ces producteurs-là pouvaient bénéficier d'un paiement environ 1 euro par arbre et $1 par arbre planté. Et donc, les producteurs étaient payés pour les arbres qu'ils plantaient. À la fin, une fois qu'il y avait du succès dans la production, les producteurs recevaient maintenant un bonus sur le prix du cacao, qui était une sorte de bonus carbone, en fait, pour le cacao. Donc ça, c'était une démarche qui avait aidé justement de nombreux petits producteurs à faire la transition vers l'agroforesterie. Le deuxième exemple, justement, de l'intérêt de l'agroforesterie que je voudrais partager, c'était plus ou moins aussi un projet avec un privé du cacao, mais qui impliquait la production de cacao biologique. Dans le cas de ce projet, grâce à l'agroforesterie, donc grâce aux arbres qui étaient plantés dans les parcelles par les producteurs pouvaient bénéficier d'une prime biologique qui allait jusqu'à donc 100 francs CFA, donc en dollars, c'est moins de 0,4 dollars par kilogramme de cacao qui était produit. Et cette prime-là, justement, c'était une prime carbone associée à l'agroforesterie. Et donc, grâce à cela, non seulement la production de cacao était meilleure, mais en plus, les producteurs recevaient plus de revenus. Donc, ces 2 expériences-là ont permis justement de lancer à grande échelle la production d'arbres agroforestiers. So now I'm switching in English to translate 2 key messages that I want to express. First is, at this moment, in the context of the climate change, many farmers in cocoa sector need to introduce the tree in the ground. So agroforestry is very necessary at this moment. The second message that I have, so agroforestry gives many opportunities to the farmers. First, you can reduce the money that you need to pay fertilizers, the money that you need to pay anything. So, and at the end, we can have the many opportunities to improve the farmers' livelihood. So here at this moment in Arboriculture, this practice is, you have the obligation to implement this practice. And if you do this, you have the opportunity to have the carbon credit and increase the farmers' income. So at this moment now, we have many projects in agroforestry which is going now. So in agriculture, we try to implement, and UNDP support many projects in agroforestry in agriculture. So thank you for this. Merci pour cette opportunité de présentation. Voilà ce que je voudrais dire d'emblée et les expériences que je voudrais partager sur l'agroforesterie. Je vous remercie.
Thank you so much, Jean-Paul. Merci. Merci beaucoup. Much appreciate your time and effort in explaining in two languages, French and English. I saw my friends who speak French. They were really also, interactive in the chat box. Thank you so much. They could relate to what you were saying. We so much appreciate, and also just want to highlight what you have mentioned about the importance of incorporating trees in farming. You highlighted how farmers can actually get to save their money because they are benefiting manure from the trees. And they'll not use that money for fertilizers. We all know that sometimes fertilizers, they sometimes do have some effects. They also do affect even the quality of the food, in as much as the fruits might look bigger and ripe, but sometimes if we quickly harvest, it might actually affect not only that plant, to also affect even our health as well. So thank you so much for that information. We really much appreciate. Now, moving on to our next session, we shall be having another poll as well that is going to be shared just soon before we hear from our Youth for Climate awardees. So the poll is already up. Let me know if you can see it. Just use the chat box, and yeah, I think most of you can see it. So the question is, do you think community-based forest management can effectively balance conservation and local livelihood needs? I think this was also mentioned not only by Jean-Paul, but also mentioned by Dr. Goetz. So we want to hear from you what you think about this. Can community-based forest management effectively balance conservation and local livelihood needs? Please kindly join. Okay, I will be closing the poll soon in the next 5 minutes. We want to hear from you. Okay, I'm going to share the results. The answer is, most of you responded yes. Yes has 95%, and someone said no. Some people said no. And we do have 5% of people who don't think there could be effectively a balance on conservation and livelihoods, and 0% for not sure. So thank you so much for your participation. We really much appreciate. Now we shall be moving on to our next session, where we are going to hear from the Youth for Climate awardees who are doing amazing initiatives in their respective countries. It could be in the forest sector or the agricultural sector, working with communities and working with youth. First, we shall hear from Rashid, and Rashid is a native rural province of Rama in Morocco. And also holds a bachelor's in English studies from Kadi Ayad University and training in community leadership from George Mason University in the USA. Rashid embarked on a journey that led him to become a pivotal force in the nonprofit sector, joining a nonprofit organization as a student intern 7 years ago, and quickly rose to prominence, showcasing exceptional leadership and professional acumen. His proactive approach and dedication have yielded significant improvements during his 2-year tenure. Rashid's commitment extends beyond the office, with weekends dedicated to training university students on participatory approaches. His goal is to empower these students to implement positive change in their communities, fostering development of numerous project proposals. His impact reached international sphere as he coordinated an environmental project with the U.S. Department Bureau of Oceans and International Environmental and Scientific Affairs. From Rashid today, we are going to kindly ask him to give us a brief description of what he is doing in Morocco and what his project Seeds of Life is about. And Rashid, as you take the floor, if you could also, after you share with us more about your initiative, if you could explain to us what is arboriculture and how you have managed to incorporate it in your project in Morocco, and how you have managed to engage the community through this initiative. If you are there, please, I'm going to kindly ask you to unmute and share with the audience what you have prepared for us.
Thank you so much for the beautiful introduction and also for the very important question that you asked. It's coming from the community, and I think the community, whatever the community does towards agriculture or forest, is not only a balance, it is a global path in order to base initiatives and keys and solutions against the climate change and other environmental problems. So it is very important to keep that in mind. Again, I'm Rashid Mutasif from Morocco, and now I'm currently in the Philippines. So good evening from the Philippines and good afternoon from Morocco. It is also a great pleasure to come back and touch base the beautiful movement and the beautiful energy that we're actually sharing. Starting from the arboriculture is a science and the practice of cultivating and managing the trees and also all the woody plants. And that means from A to Z, from the planting the tree, making sure that tree is in a good condition, but also how to follow up in a very environmentally friendly to respond the tree diseases and problems, whatever that tree is planted. So this question is, why is it the same science around the world? So the answer to that is yes, but obviously we don't have the same kind of trees in all the regions or all the continents of the earth. So therefore, the practices are different of growing a tree in good condition and follow up until it gives not only the fruits but also in order to observe the carbon and other emissions. So that's a very summarized for the agriculture. But the Morocco case, when it comes to agriculture, it started from 2016, where Morocco realized that 70% of the agricultural land in Morocco is only used for wheat and corn, and therefore there's only 15% that benefits these farming families and communities in general. And then the Kingdom of Morocco chooses the path of transferring the whole agriculture into tree planting, and that includes, of course, all the pillars, which is environmental protection, but also economic growth in the kingdom. And so Morocco launched this initiative by planting a million trees every year. And we got engaged in this process in 2016 by planting organic fruit trees with communities in Morocco. So that's the main image. But to touch a little more on our subject, which is the agriculture, is the conflict that we have in Morocco in the mountains between local communities and the High Commissions of Waters and Forests, which is a department that takes care of the higher tops of the mountains, and that includes, of course, trees and other life of the area. The conflict is that the local communities wanted to use that park, and of course, when they use that park, they use it for different purposes, and that includes, bringing their animals to the area, and therefore they somehow they take good care of the trees. And now in that part, there's a tree called carob, which is a Mediterranean tree that of course gives the carob beans, and that is very expensive. So when Moroccans knew about that carob, they wanted to benefit from that, and then they got into conflict between the Commission on Waters and Forests, and they can't enter that area. So we built a partnership. To summarize this, we built a partnership between the High Commission on Waters and Forests and local communities, but we provide these carob trees that the local communities planted in these higher mountains, and then they can benefit from with conditions. And now there is a progress, but of course it's very slow. But we can see the changes. Moving to the Seeds of Life, the baby of not me, but also the baby of Youth for Climate program. It was funded by Youth for Climate, UNDP, last year. And the Seeds of Life is a complementary project to Morocco that access to the schools in Morocco and grow 3 nurseries. And the project will provide about 35 to 50,000 organic fruit trees every year, which 80% will go to farming families with a similar price, and 20% will go for free to schools around the area for the big goal, which is the arboriculture. But the pillars under the project are 4. The first one is the environmental impact. Of course, these trees will be evaluated and follow up, and we're going to measure the amount of carbon that these trees are observing every year, and of course translate that into other projects, including tree planting and meeting the needs of the community. And the second pillar is the education and awareness. So these kids in the schools will be open to a project which is tree planting and growing trees, and they'll be able to know the every step of the process of tree planting. And in another hand, they will feel the ownership of small project, which is their trees, their project. From the beginning, that of course open doors in the future for them as entrepreneurs or community leaders. And the third pillar is the economic benefits. And I mentioned this before as an economic growth for the community. These trees, of course, will be providing fruits, and these fruits, it could be olives, it could be carob, and of course they can sell that and reuse it in different needs in the community. And going back to the question you asked before, is the community will be independent? And that reminds us of the decentralization, that the community will be independent economically and financially. And the fourth pillar is the social impact, as the Seeds of Life baby project will give a chance to the women in the area in 3 years, where they can grow their medicinal plants in the tree nursery and create their own cooperatives, the women cooperatives, and then they'll be empowered by accessing a market for the first time, and they will feel that they're involved in the economic growth of their community. So those 4 pillars, they're going to fall through time after the Seeds of Life project to make it as a model, not only in Morocco, but in Africa and all the continents, that we should act as schools for going through nurseries that respect the future of our grandkids and our children. And another goal is to build partnerships as a seeds of life to thrive me first and the community in Morocco by bringing more than 6 actors in one project. And they include the political parties, the Ministry of Education, the local communities, the Academy of Education in the region, and other nonprofit organizations that when they hear about the idea, they would like to participate. So this is also a message for the candidates for this current Youth for Climate grant. Imagine it's not only the project, it is a door that opens many doors for building other initiatives, and you will never let go on that. So very good luck, and thank you. I guess it's the time to say thank you again for my talk, and hope to see you all soon, inshallah.
Wow, thank you so much, Rashid. We really much appreciate and congratulations for the amazing work that you're doing with your team. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation and sharing your activities that you're doing on the ground. You have highlighted how communities and young people are benefiting from the initiative. I particularly liked, hearing the history of Morocco and how, it has been going green over the years. Again, thank you so much. Please stay tuned. I'm sure we shall be having questions from people that are, joining. They might have questions, and it would be good if you could also respond to them later. Moving on, we're going to hear from Hermine. Hermine holds a private business law, bachelor's degree in private business law from the University of Fiantronsea. And also Hermine is also the executive assistant on a permanent contract at Bondi International. And Hermine's mission is to provide both strategic, operational support to the general management and contribute to the proper functioning of the company by assisting with different tasks and initiatives. Hermine was also part of the Y4C project and made a major contribution to the drafting of the project titled Resilient Community at the Heart of a Sustainable Development Project with a dynamic team. And currently they are in the implementation phase of this project, and we cannot wait to hear from Hermine. If I did not mention, Hermine is from Madagascar. So if you are also from Madagascar, it would be good to reach out to Hermine if in case you would want to learn more about how they are implementing their project. So a question to you, Hermine, you have an agroforest project you are part of. What is agroforestry, and why would you encourage people to practice agroforestry? Please kindly unmute and feel free to share with us your initiative first so that everyone can get to appreciate the amazing work you are doing in Madagascar. Over to you.
Hello, everyone. I hope you hear me well. I am Harmine, I'm from Madagascar, and before I will talk about our project here, let me introduce my company and what we do exactly. So Bondi International is a Malagasy social company that offers services to other companies through land and coastal reforestation and sustainable agriculture project. We have developed an innovative reforestation model that creates strong social and environmental impact. We also build innovative, sustainable solutions to Madagascar ecological and economic challenges by positioning ourselves as a catalyst for regenerative and inclusive agriculture. Our approach is to protect Madagascar's unique biodiversity, support the economy and the vulnerable communities, create sustainable economic value, and fight the effect of climate change. So now I'm going to talk about what is our project for climate. So since its creation, Bond has carried out agroforestry projects in several regions of Madagascar with the aim of promoting agricultural transition. As part of U4 Climate Project, we have chosen a specific community of motivated farmers association in Maize in Analamanga region to set up our project entitled A Resilient Community at the Heart of a Sustainable Development Project. So our objectives are raising awareness about the fight against climate change and the importance of agroforestry, and planting trees to protect the environment, and setting up a farmer field school to teach farming practices accompanied by various training courses like poultry farming, financial education, and sales techniques, agricultural product processing, and preservation techniques to ensure the resilience of the local community. So we encourage people to practice agroforestry because it has a lot of advantage, like ecological, economical, and social benefit, like soil conservation, biodiversity restoration, carbon emission reduction, and water quality improvement, income diversification, because farmers can benefit from multiple sources of income by growing fruit trees, timber, medicinal plants, in addition to annual crops. They can also increase their production and fight against food security. Agroforestry reduces also production cost by avoiding the use of chemical input. So all these benefits will make the community more resilient to the effect of climate change. As Madagascar's rural population is more and more victim of the effect of climate change, it is no longer enough to encourage them to grow crops to meet their short-term food needs or only plant trees. We are encouraging them to adopt agroforestry so that there is a sustainable change in their lives, so that they become the actors of their own development. In short, by adopting agroforestry, farmers and communities can benefit from more resilient and sustainable production systems that not only support their livelihoods, but also contribute to the health of the global environment. So we are convinced that agroforestry is a sustainable solution for our community, but the biggest challenge is the low membership rate of farmers to reforestation project that involves restrictive forestry measures, knowing that many Malagasy farmers depend on forestry exploitation, but by proposing solutions to help them no longer depend on the forest, they join the project. Yeah, I think that's all about the company and all about what we do exactly at Bond Company. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amin. We really much appreciate the hard work that you're doing. And I'm not going to ask you questions, but I'll leave the audience to do so in case they do have any questions. But as we are waiting for questions to come in, I think there's also another question that was shared with me. Just a minute. Okay. I'll get back to that. But whilst we're waiting for questions, I'm going to call upon Dr. Gotts. If you do have any reflections on what has been shared by our Youth for Climate awardees, that's Rashid and Hamin, please feel free to jump in.
Yeah, thank you very much. And thanks for this very, very good, very interesting examples from Morocco and Madagascar. I have just a few very general comments. I thought it was very interesting, these reflections of agroforestry in the context of resilience to climate change. I think this is one of the key drivers that we have to reflect on nowadays when we want to understand what could drive the adoption of agroforestry, or what could drive the conservation of traditional agroforestry practices. It's very important. So resilience both to climate change, resilience to land degradation, both areas that are very important. The role of agroforestry in biodiversity conservation is already older. This has been considered, reflected on for some decades now, but of course continues very relevant. But this specific link to climate change resilience and also resilience to land degradation, I think, is extremely important, and this came also out in both of the presentations. I think it's extremely important that we always look at traditional practices that already exist. Most parts of the world have traditional practices that are somehow linked to agroforestry. It's very important to understand those practices and to reflect how can they be built on, maybe enhanced, maybe improved, maybe adapted to current conditions. This is extremely important. It's when we want to try to introduce agroforestry practices somewhere in a region, it's also very important to understand the barriers, and the barriers are often economic, often related to markets. So it's also something that has been discussed. Nowadays there are new opportunities related to the internet, or so, to market small quantities of a diversity of products. Maybe there are now opportunities that didn't exist a while ago. There are still places where the adoption of agroforestry is impeded by regulatory issues, questions of tree tenure, questions of land tenure. There are still places where the basic technical recommendations that farmers receive are not favorable to traditional agroforestry practices. So these are barriers that we have to understand and overcome. I think this was also reflected in the presentations, which I again think were all excellent. That's from me at this point.
Thank you so much, Dr. Guts, for the reflections. We really much appreciate. And just to go back to our chat, I think we have so many comments coming in appreciating the work that you're doing all, and thanking you for the presentations. Someone said, thank you both for your presentation. It's really encouraging for us to keep fighting for our various communities at local level. And we do have a question that was shared earlier on, and the question says, how do we achieve agricultural productivity and biodiversity protection at the same time? I'm not so sure if the presentations did justice to respond, but in case anyone wants to take this up, please just unmute yourself, Amin or Rashid, if you would want to respond to that question.
Please repeat the question.
Rashid, can you please just check if your microphone is working? We can hear you, but it's not so clear.
Hello, can you hear me now?
No. We can hear you, but it's just not so clear. So the question, I'll repeat the question again. It says, how can we achieve agriculture productivity and biodiversity protection at the same time? So please proceed and speak.
Hear me well?
You can proceed.
Perfect. a couple thoughts came to my mind, but the first one was it was my mom, and my mom is a farmer in Morocco, so I grew up in a farm, and so it was very. I was gonna mention this before. It was very hard to convince my mom to get balance. So she would always like say, "No, let's do it as your father did before, and this is our culture. There's no way we're gonna think about agroforestry, grow whatever." But then eventually the climate, it played a role of convincing as well, and that means we would have been growing the trees that matches the climate of the area, and that also benefit the benefit us and the community. For example, the very old agriculture that we're doing is we're growing apple trees in an area that there's not even enough water. And the apple trees are requiring a lot of water, and they require a lot of pesticides. But if you ask me, was it really beneficial? Of course it was by then. Then we moved from that into olive trees and carob, that they don't require a lot of water and a pesticide, but also they're beneficial to the area. And I mentioned the carob, and carob trees in the Moroccan law is a forestry tree. So it also touches on agriculture as well.
Oh, thank you so much, Rashid, for that. Much appreciated. Then we have another question which says, how do you evaluate the effects of agroforestry on climate change in the regions you work in? What evaluation techniques do you use? This is coming from Veronique. Anyone who would want to respond to this one? How do you evaluate the effects of agroforestry on climate change in the regions you work? What evaluation techniques do you use? Dr. Guts, would you like to help us respond?
Yes, yeah, happy to do so. So one important point is that on the one hand, there is the question, what does agroforestry do to mitigate climate change? So to reduce climate change, to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and there are a number of techniques that you can look into. The other one, and this is both the storage of carbon in the system, reduced emissions from reduced use of fertilizers, things like that. So the mitigation aspect of agroforestry, in that sense, also the soil is extremely important. So if you manage to develop techniques through which trees, the incorporation of trees in cropping systems, maintain and increase the soil carbon content, this is actually the largest compartment of carbon storage in agricultural systems. So this is very important. The other question is, to what extent can agroforestry help you to increase the resilience of your land use systems to climate change? So this is climate change resilience, climate change adaptation, and agroforestry can be very important. One, we have already talked about shade and about soil conservation, water conservation, improving the soil structure. So there are many mechanisms, but what is also extremely important is that if through agroforestry you have a certain diversification, an increased diversification of your products, of your farming system, and our case study presenters talked about this, this also gives you a greater resilience, because if one product fails for climatic reasons, you still have other products. And also if there is a need to really adjust over time to a changing climate, to changing conditions, you can do this more easily if you have several products, and you can gradually phase out some and increase others. So diversification is a very important advantage of agroforestry in adapting to a changing climate.
Thank you so much, Dr. Goss. I think you have said it all, the importance of forest in mitigation and, also adaptation. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time. So we're going to move on. I see some questions that are, some questions also coming in the chat box. I will ask our speakers to respond via text so that we also move on to our next speakers as well. Before we do that, I just want to give a shout out to Joseph, Ariho, Olivia, and also Sharon from Kenya, who were sharing various examples on the Youth for Climate platform. I will just read this example from Kenya, which Sharon shared. She said, reforestation projects in Laikipia County in Kenya have improved local air quality and provided recreational spaces. Forests also support livelihoods through ecotourism and sustainable harvesting of forest products like nuts, fruit, medicinal plants. This was quite enlightening because she shared a bit of ecotourism. Do you know some people, they just visit a country just to see the forest? And this is also part of ecotourism. So I thought it would be important to share with you. Now, moving on to our next session, we are going to hear from also, young people doing amazing work as well in agriculture, sustainable farming, and also forests. So first, we are going to hear from Kevin Makova, who is the founder and CEO of For Reserva Farm, where he empowers youth and women by collaborating with groups and community-based organizations to create socio-economic opportunities through climate-smart agriculture. As the project lead of the Friends of River Ezava program, Kevin is dedicated to protecting, restoring, and rehabilitating riparian land along River Ezava in Vihiga County. So someone asked a question on how to conserve water. Please listen to Kevin's presentation. Kevin, before you respond to your question, I'm going to ask you to share a bit of your project and your initiative in Kenya, and would also want to know and hear from you the role of technology in farming and how youth can benefit. The floor is yours, Kevin.
So, hello everyone, good afternoon, good evening, good morning from all across the world. My name is Kevin Makova, founder and CEO of For Reserva Farm, which is just a small social enterprise that seeks to work with the youth, women from my locality and specifically within Vihiga County in Western Kenya. So For Reserva Farm is, as I've mentioned, a social enterprise. So being so focused in society, we work collaboratively with youths, women in groups and CBUs, and our activities revolve around production of fruit, bamboo, and indigenous tree seedlings. We conduct community engagement activities through such activities such as art, sports, and even face-to-face engagements, conversations just around conservation and ecosystem restoration. So our work has mainly focused on one of the biggest water sources in our area, which is River Ezava. So River Ezava traverses across Vihiga County and by extension feeds Lake Victoria, which is one of the largest fresh water lakes in the world. But unfortunately, over the years, we have seen increasing degradation. That has been occasioned by two things. One is unregulated mining, and two is unplanned agricultural activities. I may not say that we've done so much, but as we try to integrate our solutions, which are picking up, we are noticing that this initiative can create multiple opportunities for youth within our community. But then you ask, how can we now leverage technology to ensure that we create as many opportunities as possible, and how can youth benefit from the opportunities that come from technology. So we all realize that technology plays a very crucial role in modern agriculture farming, I should say. Technology can enable farmers enhance productivity, efficiency, and sustainability. We understand that groundbreaking innovations such as precision farming, the Internet of Things, IoT devices, drones, and AI-driven analytics, if fully implemented, can allow farmers to optimize resource use. And in this case, we're talking about resources such as water, fertilizers, even seeds. Can also be able to enable us monitor crop health and automate labor-intensive tasks. And we're talking about if farmers have the opportunity to access the technology for proper harvesting, proper storage, and proper value addition of products, then we can always have automation opportunities. These advancements help in improving crop yields, reducing cost, and minimizing environmental impact. As we all know, we are all focusing so much on the idea of can we sustainably produce, and after we produce sustainably, can we sustainably consume? And we understand that technology can greatly enable us to do this. But most importantly, I focus on a demographic that is one of the largest in the world, the youth. How can youths be involved in commercial agriculture, and how can technology serve as a significant attraction for this demographic? So tech-savvy young people are already leveraging technological tools, digital tools such as mobile apps and data analytics to manage farms more effectively and innovatively. We realize that young people can work on their farms using the most modern technologies. You can look at work on your farm even when you're away from the farm through simple installations of proper digital tools. The use of data analytics can help us manage farms more efficiently and innovatively. And in this case, there are several tools that can be accessed by young people to analyze how they're utilizing resources and how they are producing. Furthermore, technologically driven agriculture offers diverse career opportunities in fields such as agri-tech development, farm management, software engineering, and agribusiness consulting. This can make the agricultural sector more appealing to younger generations by integrating more modern tech and agriculture. So agriculture can be transformed into a dynamic and profitable industry that attracts and retains young talent. And this is very important because we understand if we have to feed the world, if we have to make sure that we all can come out here and proudly take a part in economic and social development, one of the most important things is to make sure that young people are attracted to agriculture. And I believe in not more than one way, but in multiple ways, technology can play a major role. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kevin. I'm not so sure if it's my network or if it's Kevin's network. Let me know if you can hear me.
We can hear you well.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Kevin. Much appreciate you sharing about technology and how young people can leverage on technology in farming practices, conserving biodiversity as well, and how technology can help in terms of data analysis. Thank you so much. We do much appreciate. We are now going to move on to Anna, who is a Bolivian international business professional with a background in international cooperation for development. She has worked in various cooperation entities, including embassies, foundations, and also the United Nations. Her work has primarily focused on food safety and education. And today she will be sharing with us about her project as well. And Anna, before you do so, I'm just going to ask you to give us a brief background about your project and also share with us what hydroponics is and how can technology help to mitigate climate change impacts in 7 minutes. Over to you, Anna.
Well, thank you very much, Elizabeth. It is a pleasure being here. And well, before sharing about the project that we are implementing in Bolivia, I would like to address what is often needed in order to produce food. What is often needed for traditional agriculture, what is often needed in order to ensure food safety in our environment is large land spaces and large quantity of water resources. Also, often food production has been something relegated to rural areas, as agriculture has often led to deforestation, soil degradation, and water scarcity. Hence exacerbating the impacts of climate change. This is the case of Bolivia, the country that I live in. We are one of the most deforesting countries in the world. And having this as a background, I often work, I work in the Bolivian Amazon. I was actually just recently there, and this is an issue that we see every day. Hence, it is essential to use new technologies in order to address these issues and ensure food security for population without endangering our forest ecosystems and the biodiversity that resides in them. Hence, I would like to address the questions of what are hydroponics. Hydroponics is a method of growing plants without soil. So basically, it implies delivering the nutrients directly to the plant roots. This can be done through several methods. In the case of our project, we are using PVC pipes, and this technique allows for controlled and efficient plant growth while efficiently using all resources such as space, water, and decrease the need for example, pesticides, and minimize the transportation emissions by enabling local food production. In Bolivia, for example, alongside Movimiento Propacha, we were awarded with funding by the Youth for Change and UNDP in order to implement this project that establishes urban gardens in the city of La Paz, especially in school environments, in order to promote education and the sustainable production of food. So just recently we implemented the first urban garden, and this project actually addresses the lack of space in urban areas, and we're also teaching children and the community about sustainable food production, demonstrating that vast resources are not necessary for effective agriculture. We are not doing this alone. We are actually, we have partnered up with an organization called Cruz Verde, and they are the ones who are providing the know-how on how to build sustainable solutions for agriculture. So alongside them, we are implementing this project in order to basically crop as much food as possible without harming other environments. So we are still a long way to. We still need. We still have a long way to go in order to be able to provide food for the whole population, for the whole Bolivian population. But we are setting an example as why using new technologies, as the previous speaker was mentioning, why using new technologies is essential to ensure sustainability, especially in order to show that we can produce our own food in urban areas in instead of in rural areas. It is not needed to harm ecosystems. It is not needed to basically burn our forests. And now by educating the population on new agricultural practices, we aim to provide environmental education and food security to the population. There are some other technologies that are being implemented in this project, especially UV lights, PVC pipes, and hydroponics in order to produce the food and ensure that every resource that we're using is wisely used. So if I can maybe share my screen, if you can allow me to do so, I can show you a couple pictures of what's being done in our project. So please confirm if you can see my screen.
Yes.
So this is a model of what hydroponics are, and this is how our project was implemented in Bolivia. Those are some pictures that we recently took of the project. The whole community is involved. This is a small version, but we have been able to produce around 500 vegetables so far. We've been able to crop every single month since we started last December. So far we've been able to go to this urban garden and crop around 6 times now. So it is more efficient, it is faster, and we are using resources effectively. So this is a little bit of what we're doing in Bolivia, and we wish to replicate this in other areas of the city of La Paz and also in other areas of Bolivia as well, including rural areas. And this is very important in order to ensure the efficiency of resources and to stop what we are traditionally doing, which is causing and actually exacerbating the impacts of climate change. So thank you very much for this time and for allowing me to show you what we're doing in Bolivia.
Thank you so much, Anna. We really much appreciate the time and effort you are putting into contributing and ensuring food security within your community. I'm going to ask Kevin and Anna to kindly respond to questions that are in the chat. You can type if you can, so that we do not try to exceed our time. I'm going to call upon Dr. Götz to give us any reflections on what Kevin and Anna have highlighted in a minute, if you can. Then after that, I think we will close off the session. Dr. Götz, if you're there, please.
Yeah, I have nothing particular to say. I mean, just I think it's extremely important. There has been mentioned a number of times the importance of biodiversity conservation, of using all means that we have, agroforestry, urban agriculture, etc., to reduce the footprint of agriculture on natural ecosystems. I think this is really fundamental, and it's really encouraging that I think all the speakers somehow reflected on that, especially now in the last presentations on urban agriculture. I think it's a very important area to work on, to try to reduce the environmental footprint on agriculture, and for that I think it's a very interesting case studies. Congratulations for that, and happy to continue that discussion and other means. Yeah, thank you very much. Bye.
Dr. Götz, thank you so much for, as mentioned, we cannot thank you enough for dedicating time and spending much time to interact and engage with us throughout the session. And it's been quite an honor to everyone. Thank you for joining this session and joining in the discussions. Though we still do have so much to say, so many questions to ask, so much to respond to, I'm going to ask you to join the discussion on the Youth for Climate platform so we can continue with this discussion. Thank you to our speakers, Kevin, Anna, Rashid, Hamin. We just want to thank you, and also for the Youth for Climate team that has been supporting behind the scenes Roxani, Lydia, Malak, and Ole, thank you so much. So with this, it's a goodbye from me. Have a good day, good night, and good afternoon. Bye.
Bye, everyone.